This is my passion. This is Ike's Outdoors. Hey guys, Ike here from IkesOutdoors.com. In this video, I've got a special guest who's going to give you guys some turkey hunting tips. Derek is a guy I respect quite a bit for his ability as a turkey hunter. He's got quite a few turkeys on the wall and he's had a lot of good success, and he has a lot of knowledge when it comes to turkey hunting. When it comes to calling, that's not really the way that I hunt. When it comes to hunting turkeys, I hunt them more like deer. Derek seems to know a lot more of the calling facets, and really just more of the overall how-tos when it comes to turkey hunting. So Derek's going to step in here and he's going to give you guys a few tips on turkey hunting. He's going to talk about decoys, he's going to talk about calling, he's going to talk about basically whatever comes to his mind, whatever tips he can come up with.
Once I've got my decoys set up, the biggest mistake, and I cut my teeth hunting turkeys on public land, so I had a lot of years there that I got skunked. A lot of years that birds would hang up. Birds get call shy on public land. They get busted. They get bumped off the roost. They've had everything thrown at them. So, and one of the biggest mistakes I think all of us turkey hunters make, even the pros, is over calling whenever the birds are on the roost. And it's hard. It is so hard because you're fired up. Bow season's been over. The only thing you've been able to do really, if you're a predator hunter, is predator hunt. It's spring. You're ready to get out in the woods. You're fired up yourself, and it's whenever those gobblers get to going on the trees, gobbling their heads off, it's hard not to overcall. But one thing I've learned is if you have to make yourself do it, but don't overcall on the roost. What you want to do is basically, what I do, is just tone it down and don't overcall. What I'll do is basically I'll make a series of yelps for every decoy that I have out there, and then that's it. I try to gauge how much daylight we're getting to about the time I've noticed whenever I've been scouting that the birds are flying down. Try to gauge that time frame right there to where I know it's pretty much fly down time, and then I'll just give a series of yelps. Just real soft tree yelps like that. And then one thing I'll do that I've found has been beneficial for me is to do again, for every decoy that I've got out there, do a fly down cackle. And a lot of times, some guys like to whenever they do that, like to take a wing in, an actual wing from a bird they've harvested in the past. If you don't feel, some guys don't feel comfortable doing that, just due to safety reasons, dragging that around, carrying it, having it hanging out your vest. And that's okay too, and I personally don't. But one of the tricks around that is you've usually got a glove on, you're sitting down, you've got your pant leg. So what you can do is you can emulate that just by having that glove, cup your hand, and just by slapping on your thigh right there as you do that fly down cackle. That'll emulate that fly down, and if there's a gobbler within earshot, which hopefully if you've got in and got set up and you've got in his living room, he's gonna hear it. So real quick, we'll just run through that fly down cackle. They typically they'll start out just in a series of yelps, and then they'll go into a fly down cackle. A lot of you guys, if you're hearing that now, you're probably thinking, yeah, I've heard that, didn't know what that was. That's the fly down cackle. Not all the time will they do it, but by and large, most of the time, the birds are going to do that, especially the hens whenever they fly out of the roost. So the gobblers are going to hear that. You do that, you've got your decoys set out there. At that point, once I've done that, I'll do a fly down cackle like that. And I'll do it again just so you can hear it again. About the time they get done with that cadence, they're pretty well on the ground. And again, that trick of just to emulate the wings, just to add more realism to it, just slapping your thigh with you got your camo on, you got your glove on your hand. It muffles it and sounds pretty realistic. So that's another way to let that gobbler know, hey, something's over there, something just flew down. At that point, what I do is I pretty well just shut up at that time and just see what's going to take place within the next few minutes. Usually by that time, birds are going to be flying down. You're going to see what's going to happen pretty quick. You get that, if you got a gobbler by himself and you've slipped in his living room, chances are, then again, we're talking about turkeys, so they can fool you anytime. But by and large, if you've done that and you've got into his living room, you've done those things right there, the odds at this point are in your favor. You've just sit back and hold tight. Give them just a few minutes before you make any more sounds till you let the birds hit the ground. A lot of times, I had, for example, last year, one of the birds I killed turned himself wrong side out on the roost gobbling. But once he hit the ground, never made a sound. That's common. I know talked to a lot of my buddies that turkey hunt. That's common. A lot of times they're more active gobbling on the roost, but that's not always the case. But this bird again last year, he never made a sound. Once he hit the ground, I had went through just what I've showed you, and he actually came into my right, never made a sound, popped into the edge of the field, and by the time he hit the ground to by the time I was toting him out, total time lapse probably 5 minutes. Granted, they always don't work like that, but we sure are thankful for those times whenever they do. Times whenever you get so that's a scenario whenever you're setting up. You've got a gobbler that's pretty well by himself. You don't have to really compete with the hens, depending on what time of season it is. Whether the hens are kind of staying off by themselves, they've already been bred, they're going off to nest. Those gobblers are still fired up, they're still interested. That's a scenario like that. Now the times whenever I've experienced birds that are henned up. When I say henned up, I'm talking gobblers, either a gobbler or a group of gobblers that have got multiple hens with them. Now is whenever it gets tough. The best thing you can do at that point is, and sometimes they may just come on in, hens and all, and just lead them right over. I've experienced that as well. But there's also times that at that point they've got the real thing in front of them. They're not interested in your plastic decoy over there, and no matter how good we can call, even the pros, we just can't compete with the real thing. So in a situation like that, you got birds in the field, say you've watched them for a while, not responding, you've thrown everything that you know at them, you've yelped, you've cut, which I'm going to stop right there on cutting. That's one of the things that I've noticed in the 18 years that I've turkey hunted. Cutting, a lot of times if a gobbler's not aggressive or fired up, if you cut, you can really get him fired up. Let me show you what I mean real quick. We're emulating a hen here, okay? I prefer a mouth call. It's got multiple reeds on it. The raspier the better. That's just my personal preference. But you do that cutting like that, you put some emotion into it, you really try to get him fired up. 9 times out of 10, even if he don't commit, if he's with a hen, he's going to stand out there, he's going to gobble, you're going to have his interest. Say you've went through a series of yelps, you've went through clucks, you've thrown, again, everything you know in your arsenal, and no response. The hens aren't paying attention to you, gobbler's not paying attention to you. At this point, the best thing really that I've experienced is, out of those hens that are going to be out there, there's going to be one of them that's going to be the matriarch. She's going to be the one that's going to be looking around more than the others. Most of them probably going to be feeding. Gobbler's going to be strutting around them. But there's going to be one, if you'll pick her out, and a lot of times they're vocal too. A lot of people refer to them as old boss hen. And she'll be the one, she'll be the most vocal. Your best option at that point is to get her mad, get her fired up herself, just through clucking, just through yelping, just through cutting like that, just making those typical turkey sounds. And if you can get her fired up, a lot of times she'll bring the whole group over. In instances like that, you'll have some success right there if you just wait them out. And I've had it work out that way with me before, where get that old boss hen fired up, she'll come in, she'll bring the other birds, and they'll just follow single file. And then a lot of times you got to wait, because those gobblers, the gobblers are really, what they're doing whenever they're strutting, they're wanting that hen to come to them. So really, in all honesty, the odds are kind of stacked against us. So we got to make him want to come over there. So whenever you get that boss hen fired up like that, just be patient, and just a lot of times they'll just come single file, and just usually the gobbler's going to be last. Just wait him out and then just bust his head whenever he gets within range. Scenarios like I just mentioned there, where birds are henned up, you've done all those things and they're just not responding. They're not coming. They're not paying no attention to your decoys, not paying no attention to your calls. At that point, just kind of sit back and wait. Just watch what they're doing. See kind of which, if you're hunting in timber, or if you're hunting in the field, open field, just kind of see which way they're going. Hopefully you've done your homework, you know the lay of the land, you know maybe what their patterns are by that point, you know where they're going to head at, say, 8, 9 o'clock, where they may come back to at about 11. You're in a situation like that where the birds aren't responding, they're henned up. I've found, and there's two things I won't go to the turkey woods without when it comes to spring shotgun season. And that's, of course, my Benelli. That's a given. But the last 2 years I started hunting using a ghillie suit. A ghillie suit gives you an opportunity to, even with great camouflage patterns that we have out there and all the advances in technology that they've had over the last several years in camo patterns. We got some great camo patterns out there. But you take a regular ghillie suit made out of either jute thread or synthetic jute, and just get a regular woodland military camo pattern. I actually killed a bird last year. It took me 3.5 hours, but he was henned up. He was by himself. He was the only gobbler, but he had 4 hens. And again, you just can't compete with that. Why would he leave 300? Would he come 300 yards whenever he's got the real thing in front of him? It just doesn't make sense. So keeping that in mind, I just watched them, seen where they were going, decided to put the sneak on them, made my move, got down there, crawled within along the river as far as I dared go, and at that point I actually crawled across a wide open prairie field. Spring growth, prairie grass is probably maybe 10 inches tall max. But I actually, after 3.5 hours, got within range, and I was wore out, trust me. But it was a lot of fun, and that's probably one of the most memorable turkey hunts I've ever had. So a ghillie suit can be a huge key in a situation like that. Whenever you have to put a sneak on, because it'll blend in as you crawl, as you're moving around twigs, the vegetation. Whatever you're crawling through right there is going to leach onto your ghillie suit and really blend right in. I actually had last year on that hunt, I actually had hens walk within distance of me where I was laying flat on my belly. I could have reached out and grabbed them. They got that close. So that's another tip right there, is to use a ghillie suit, because in those situations whenever the gobblers are henned up, again, not responding to your calls, not responding to your decoys, they're henned up, they've got the real deal right in front of them. They're not interested in your calling, they're not interested in your decoys. At that point, you can either wait them out and hope they're going to break, and the hens are either that are already bred are going to go to nest, or you can put the sneak on. And for those of you that haven't put the sneak on a turkey, there is something said about it's a rush. There's something said about your woodsmanship skills, and being able to stalk up on a turkey and kill it, whether you have to sneak to get into position to ambush it, or if you choose to hunt out of a ghillie suit like I do and you're actually crawling across the open towards them. That's another tactic.